Please enjoy this message from David Arquette sent in by the fabulous Carrie Tenney.
Hey Ryan, how are you? Thanks for doing the Scream podcast.
Like scary movies?
Uh-huh.
What's your favorite scary movie?
I don't know.
You have to have a favorite. What comes to mind?
You are listening to Scream with Ryan C. Showers, the podcast for Scream fans just like you. Join Ryan every week as he takes a deep dive into the horror film series that defined the 90s and redefined the genre. Scream with Ryan C. Showers is your source for scene and quote analysis, character dissections, and the latest news about upcoming installments of the Scary Movie franchise.
I hear you like horror movies, Kirby, but do you like them as much as him?
Hello, everybody, and welcome to Scream with Ryan C. Showers. I'm your host, Ryan C. Showers. Happy April. Showers. Wow, that was bad. Sorry. Happy April 1st. This is going to be a Scream 4 episode because April is the month of Scream 4. You know, Scream 4 came out April 15th in the year 2011. And this year, we are going back in time to take a look at the production around Scream 4 and what that time was like. So Scream 4 filmed in the summer of 2010 and then, of course, was released in April. And it was a different time, you know. The internet was still around, so it's still comparable to today, and you can still understand it by today's standards. But it was very, very different from the world we live in now in terms of the fandom, like the internet forums, and just the general vibe and what everybody was expecting around the production of Scream 4. So it's a very interesting topic. So everybody, please keep listening for that. But before then, I am sitting here with the creative producer of Scream with Ryan C. Showers. Hey, Ashley.
Oh, hello. Hello, everybody.
And it's also a Scream 4. And Ashley is a huge Scream 4 fan.
I am. Scream 4 is nothing for me can top the first movie, but Scream 4 is as close as it possibly can get.
Why is that?
I think there's just like a lot of nostalgia for me. I think it was the first movie that I got to watch in theaters. It's the first movie where I think I was at an age. I was always either way younger because like when I was watching the original Screams, these people seemed so much older than me. And then watching Scream 4, I would have been like 22, 23 when that movie came out. Mm-hmm. So just a little bit closer in range to those people and understanding like just like, you know, out of high school, for a little while. And just, I was working at a movie theater at the time and I got to like actually like witness Scream 4 in all of its glory. We got to have a midnight screening of it. And I actually like was very sick. And they made me go home because I was not okay. And I was like, no, I can make it through the movie. And they were like, no,
go.
You are ill. Like, you don't need to go.
Oh my gosh. Well, there is so much great Scream 4 stuff coming at you. We just recorded the Jill Roberts monthly Zoom for the Patreon. We invited all of the Patreon to come and we kind of gave a tribute to Jill Roberts. And that's the episode that will be coming out on the anniversary of Scream 4 in 2 weeks. So that's very fun. That's just one of the perks of joining the Patreon. In addition to the group chats and the online community, we have a monthly Zoom every month. And everybody who is subscribed at tier 2 and above and annually can come and be on the podcast once a month, which is very fun. In addition to one-on-one topics and stuff that we are getting back to, of course, the basics. But before we go any further, I just want to remind everybody that on April 17th, so in 2 weeks, we are going to be entering a new era for the podcast, even though I think, in my mind, we're already in that era. But on April 17th, I'm going to be releasing the first commentary episode of the Scream with Ryan C. Showers. We are covering The Craft, which was the movie starring Neve Campbell and Skeet Ulrich before they did Scream, the same year as Scream. And I thought it was a nice poetic way to kind of rev up the commentaries before I get to the Scream movies in a couple of months. I want to kind of practice and really get good at the audio commentary. So I'm really excited about this. It's going to be a Patreon exclusive. So join the Patreon and come partake in the commentaries with me. It will be very fun. I'm going to be recording it here very soon. So wish me luck. So we're going to be working on that. And I also need to thank my intrepid editor, Albert Padilla. Thank you so much, Albert, for all that you do. I need to thank TJ Jones, who is the photographic designer for Scream with Ryan C. Showers. He has really revolutionized the way that my episodes and appearance on social media really take form. So thank you so much, TJ. And of course, thank you to Ashley, the creative producer of Scream with Ryan C. Showers. Okay. So Ash, before we go any farther into the episode, let's do the Taylor Swift song of the week. And this is a new tradition of Scream with Ryan C. Showers that we're doing. Every episode, Ashley and I will come on for the first 10 minutes, and then you'll hear the episode proper. But, here we are. So, Ash, what song did we select for this week?
So the Taylor Swift song for this week is Red, or this is from the album Red, which was originally released in 2012 and then re-released in 2021 for Taylor's version. It's track 2, produced by Christopher Rowe, written by Taylor Swift. This song is so beautiful. It really talks about loss and love and using colors to equate emotions, feelings of passion and heartbreak. And I feel like it really encapsulates what it's like to be romanticizing someone while still going through pain, while still missing someone and like not really understanding where it went. And it's just like, it's when you actually like listen to the lyrics of this song, it's always so much better than what I remember it to be.
Yeah, it's really like, in terms of just like putting this, in terms of a song that you can put on for anybody to listen to, I think Red is definitely one of those songs. Brent even knows it as the Maserati song, just because I play it whenever I'm like with Brent or my sister or my family. Like, there are certain Taylor Swift songs I play and certain Taylor Swift songs I don't play. Obviously, I go for like the more mainstream with them, and that's Red. That's Red, the song Red. But I think Red is also, it's very deep and it's very clever in terms of the imagery that she uses, the word descriptions that she uses to describe her emotions, and like the whole concept of the song is like how she was in love, and it was just like this burning passion, like unbridled energy that didn't materialize, or that faltered somewhere and just was cut off from her. And it's all of that passion. And I love the imagery that it evokes. And I just want to like read the chorus just because I'm that basic bitch. So she says, losing him was blue like I'd never known. Missing him was dark gray all alone. Forgetting him was like trying to know somebody you never met, but loving him was red. Loving him was red. And I just love the idea, like the blue, gray, red. I've also kind of thought about like Gail Weathers and her suits. In Scream 6, we had blue after she lost Stewie. Scream 5, she wore the red suit. So, maybe Kevin Williamson's a Taylor Swift fan and he'll give her a gray suit in Scream 7. I don't know. So
I hope so.
But I love this song, and we have to give a shout out to our Patreon friend Mark Vieira, who he has a tattoo on his leg with the word red, and he has the colors blue, gray, and red to symbolize this song, and I love that. So
yeah, it's a great tattoo, and he's covered in some Taylor tats, which are pretty fun. I haven't even done that yet.
So Red is also, so the reason why we picked Red for this week is because Scream 4 came out in 2012, and Red also came out in 2012, the original Red. And also Red is Taylor's 4th album, Scream 4. We're applying these Taylor Swift Easter eggs to the Scream fandom, and I'm here for it. Red is also my favorite album of Taylor Swift. It's like a tie with like Red and Evermore. I mean, like but so I thought it was a great choice for the first Taylor Swift song that we're picking from Red to be Red, to really emphasize that. And if you look behind me, you can see the vinyl of Red, Taylor's version. I'm wearing my Red All Too Well Taylor Swift shirt here on Zoom. And Red also meant something very special to somebody very important to Ashley. So we just wanted to give her a little tribute.
Yeah. Ryan was kind enough when recently, one of my dear cousins passed away, and she was a big Swiftie. And I remember when we were talking about the track listing or the set list for the Eras tour, she's like, "How was Red not on this?" And I was like, I hear you, but like the set list is perfect. But you know what? You're right. Like getting Red for a secret song or a surprise song would have been perfect. But Nicole was funny and blunt and very Gail Weathers in her delivery of things. I think Ryan and her would have really liked each other. And I just want to say that to all of my friends out there, if you're not feeling good or something feels off, go to the doctor if you're able. Check your boobies, ladies and boys. Everybody can get breast cancer, and it can just really tear you apart. And the line, "Missing him was gray all alone and like losing him was blue like I'd never known," is hitting me a little bit in a different way recently. But I hope you all can maybe listen to this song and just have a little fun with it, even if you're not the biggest Swiftie, in honor of everybody out there who might be going through some grief.
And well, love you, Ash.
I love you too. Thank you for doing that. I think she would be honored.
And also, like, just to, tie up like what this song really is. Like, this is one of my favorite songs. Like, I would probably put it in maybe like the top 5, easily the top 10, but top 5 of Red for me. I think it's such a fun song. But the thing about Taylor Swift is like, this is like, Red is a transitional album because she's blending a lot of different genres, and like one of the genres that she hasn't used yet in her as a center focal piece of an album so far is rock, and this song is very rock, rock and roll, and I love that. But also the way that she writes the lyrics to describe how she's feeling and the visual metaphors of objects and settings and tying those pieces of imagery to her pain. That is like, this is almost like a practice, like a warm up, a mainstream warm up for what she would do later on with Folklore, Evermore, Midnight's, Tortured Poets Department, right? So it's just such a special song, and I really love it. So I'm a Red boy. So
I couldn't agree more. It's beautiful.
Okay. Well, Ash, thank you for this Taylor Swift Song of the Week. I do need to go through and thank some people over at Patreon. I need to thank new Patreons: Pablo Esteves, Liberty Bells, Frank Martz, and John Corin. I also need to thank my Daddy Ghostfaces, Mama Ghostface, and Stab investors. They include Carrie May, Brett Janovich, Josh Calamari, Garrison Nichols, Tamika Jones, Sam Levy, Jessica Mariano, David D, Scream Queens Podcast, both Josh and Justine, Joey Nobrini, aka The Vault, Mark Vieira, hey, Mr. Red, Gustavo Mora, PWO5, aka Philip Douglas, Stevie Shears, Chris Beatty, Josh Carr, Roy Garza, Allie, Corey Wilson, Kevin Abner, and Mark Rim. All right, everybody, please enjoy the rest of this episode about Scream 4. Hello, everybody, and welcome to this segment of Scream with Ryan C. Showers. I'm your host, Ryan C. Showers, and here we are. We are doing the main episode. It is April, which means it's Scream 4 month, and I am here joined by one of the biggest fans of Scream 4 that I know. It is my friend Ivan. Hey, Ivan.
Hi.
Welcome to the podcast. Oh, my God.
I'm so happy to be here. It's been a long time coming. We arranged this like a year ago, last summer. So I'm finally here.
Well, so, I have to just kind of brag about this guy for a second. He is he's so funny. Like, there are sometimes things that you say and the memes and the GIFs that you post in response to news, in response to other people's comments. I feel like I get you so deeply and so precisely. You find the most precise thing to respond to things with. Like, it's just like there's like almost like a sixth sense between us. Like, we have the same antennas going up, and it's just the sense of humor I really, really get, and I really, really enjoy. So, welcome.
Well, yes, thank you so much. Well, I feel like we're kindred spirits in a way, because like feel you're almost like my resurrection of my Scream journey, because like I'm gonna get into this in a minute, but like it was kind of over for me for a while. It was looking grim. I was kind of out of it. I was not looking forward to anything of Scream related whatsoever. And when certain things happened, when certain announcements happened, I was elated. However, when I found your podcast, I was like, oh my God, this is like the old times. This is like somebody who like really gets Scream and talks about Scream like we used to back in the day, which I'm going to get into in a minute. Obviously, this episode is going to be partially about the Scream forum, the Ultimate Scream message board, to be specific. There was another one, but I was not on that. But anyways, yeah, so I'm super excited reliving the past with you for this episode.
Well, thank you so much. And that really warms my heart, because even like I was thinking about it today. I was on a drive and I was thinking like, how would who is my target audience? I think it's so obvious that like my target audience are people who grew up with the Scream trilogy, or like kind of old school Scream fans, but like also I have the door open for new Scream fans, but like it comes across in my tone and the way I approach the franchise, in terms of like the way that we talk about Scream on this podcast versus the way that Scream is talked about elsewhere. And that's a big theme that I want to hit on in this episode, is like, the way that like Scream used to be discussed on the internet forums, whether it was like the screamtrilogy.net, the Ultimate Scream message board, like the IMDb message boards, like there was such a sense of intelligence and nuance and
exactly, yeah,
like a command over like the merits of film and of storytelling, and it really put my feet to the fire, and that's why I feel like I can come on here and I have such an intense defense of Scream 3, of Scream 4, of Scream 2, whatever, and why the younger fans may see me as harsh when it comes to Scream 6, but I'm not being harsh. I'm just being what film criticism used to be like.
You're just being normal, but being normal nowadays just comes off like, crazy, I guess, and worthy of like online attacks and hate for years on end. But yeah, so let's get into it.
Let's get into it. So Ivan, tell me your Scream story.
Okay, so I apologize in advance. This is going to be a little bit long, but it's necessary for my plot, like overall. So I was actually a horror fan since I was like 5 or 6 years old, if you can believe it. I was an early bloomer, but mostly because my sister was a horror fan. She's older than me by 12 years. She would rent out DVDs like 4 times a week. We would watch pretty much everything from like everything that was current at the time. Like J-horror was big. Obviously torture porn was starting up. J-horror remakes, new French extremity. This was big in Europe. Obviously I'm European, if people can tell. Like Giallos were popping at the time because distribution was just coming out from like 90s Giallo and stuff. Obviously saw Final Destination. I was mostly into Final Destination. This was my favorite franchise before Scream. And J-horror, I still am a huge fan of J-horror, everything J-horror related. My sister was not. She was more into like extreme horror and stuff. And like that was my introduction to horror. And basically, to keep it a little bit shorter, my horror education was more or less complete by the time I turned like 10 years old, other than 90s horror. And that's because 90s horror had such a bad reputation at the time. Like 90s horror is bad. That's what like older kids like used to tell me, like the people who had seen I Know What You Did Last Summer or Scream, like 90s slashers are corny and not scary, so I always put it off. Because, when you're a kid, you just sort of trust adults and like older kids than you. And like also like this was the era of scary movie, and I'm a scary movie fan now. I used to hate scary movie because of what it did to the Scream franchise, to be completely honest. But that was a little bit later on. Basically, I had literally seen like obscure 60s and 70s movies before I had seen Scream.
Which probably, in your defense, probably made you appreciate Scream more.
Absolutely. I was going to say that. So actually, I didn't get to watching the Scream franchise until the Scream 4 trailer had already come out. So this was around December 2010. and I just saw the Scream 4 trailer on YouTube, and I was like, well, wait a minute, this looks kind of good. And also, like, it looks kind of like glam, and I like all of these like actors and actresses because obviously I was a little gay boy, and I knew who Anna Paquin was, and stuff like that, and it kind of like caught my eye. And the first thing I did, I went to IMDb, and I immediately spoiled myself. Obviously, well, the Scream 4 trailer more or less spoiled it already, but I knew that the trio survives until movie number 4. But that's basically all I knew. I had seen Scary Movie, so I was kind of confused because I thought that it was a literal parody. So I thought it was like, wait, isn't Dewey the mastermind killer of Scream?
Oh my God.
Yeah, that's so stupid. But I actually thought that, yeah. And when I watched Scream 4 for the first time, that was one of the biggest surprises, that actually Dewey was not a killer at all or guilty whatsoever. So thank you, Scary Movie, for the red herring. But yeah, I watched Scream 1 for the first time, and it was quite literally unlike anything that I had seen at that point. Not only like the opening scene, like actually was so disturbing to me with Casey, obviously, like I wanted to like pause it and like, oh my God, because this is something that has been like made fun of in culture, like in the 2000s. And I honestly, I figured it was going to be like a joke or something, but it was so visceral, like so human almost, in a way that so many other horror movies weren't. And it shook me so hard. And then obviously the rest of the movie I loved, like thoroughly, absolutely every moment of it. And actually what happened after I watched the trailer for Scream 4, I had to hunt down all 3 movies on DVD. And I did so within an afternoon, and I watched them all like within like 5 hours. So to me, Scream 1 through 3 are like always like in my mind like a packaged unit, but I mean they are anyways. But to me, like it's like one long experience. So I immediately became a Scream fan, and also because I was so educated on horror, it almost helped in a like not helped, but like I understood all of the references. I got it completely. Like I feel like I knew what it was saying about other movies in a way. Like I've heard like the allegation that that Scream is a good like entry level horror, like maybe like in terms of violence. But I feel like if you're really gonna appreciate Scream, like I think you should probably watch other movies first if you're like a brand new horror fan. And it just so happens that this was the case for me. So yeah. And because I loved the first 3 Scream movies so much and 4 looked great, I immediately tried to look whether there was a forum for this. And I was familiar with the forum culture in general because, like I said, I'm a little gay boy. And I bought Katy Perry's first album, One of the Boys, and it had a link on it that took you to the Katy Perry forums. And that's how I was familiar with forum culture. So USMB was not my first forum. It was actually not my second. The Fight the Design Final Destination forum was my second forum. And I joined USMB, and the rest is history, I guess. Yeah, after that point, I was like watching Scream 1, 2, 3, like 2 times a day, sometimes like spending weekends just like watching them all over again. And like finding something new to say about them and post about them. But yeah, that's my Scream beginning story.
Well, so what is your official ranking?
Well, so you've asked me this before. It's changed a bit since then. Obviously, Scream 4 is my, well, not obviously, actually haven't gotten to that point yet, but Scream 4 is my favorite. So 4, 3, 1, 2, pause, 5, 6. Yeah.
I love this ranking. Oh my God. This is like the best ranking ever.
Okay, so let me tell you something. Girl. So the reason why I didn't rank Scream 3 second when you asked me first, it was actually because I didn't want to like sound like an ass kisser, so I kind of like disingenuously flipped it around.
Well, no, you did tell me. This was the ranking I remembered, to be honest. 4, 3, blah 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 blah. And I was like, I've always thought that was so cool because, you'll hear a ranking with 3 at the top. You'll hear a ranking with 4 at the top, but it's rare to hear both of them side by side in the first 2 positions. So I just think this is like the coolest MF ranking. So I love it.
I think when you first asked me, I said 2 was my second favorite. But I think I was a bit like I was overcompensating a bit, because during the Scream 4, the forum era, I was not like super enthusiastic about Scream 2. It was like my 4th always, and I used to fight with Scream 2 fans, because this was the era where Scream 3 was not super popular. When Scream 4 came out, it was not like, oh my god, this is amazing. Not everybody was like in unison and stuff. So the Scream 2 fans who liked to always like shit on Scream 3 and 4, they were obviously always super like loud and combative. And I shouldn't have like stooped to that level, but I was.
But you probably did.
I definitely did, and I was like poking holes in the Scream but I was doing way too much. It's still an amazing, beautiful, like perfect sequel. It's almost too perfect. I think that's why I rank it that way. It's almost like a goody two shoes type of sequel. Like everybody likes it. It hits all of the correct notes. I think Scream 3 is so ambitious. I think it's so beautiful. I think it's I like when sequels. I don't treat movie franchises like TV shows. I think sequels should like have their own identity, both visually and thematically. When you think of Scream 4, it's such a rich like vibe. It's so specific. It's so particular. Like Scream 3, Hollywood, like plasticky movie props. Like it's such a immediate like visual vibe. It feels like artificial sort of plastic. It feels like old Hollywood mansions, spooky stuff, like plastic aliens and stuff. Like it's such a cool vibe. I love it so much. I can watch Scream 3 any time of the day. Like that's the only Scream movie that when it comes on, I will watch it all the way through. Not even Scream 4, because I feel like Scream 4 is a bit more heavy, and I'm not always like in the mood to like go there completely. But I feel like because Scream 3, that's not to say that Scream 3 is like lightweight or whatever, but it's just so gorgeous and beautiful and pretty. And for a slasher movie, actually, I think this is really cool. It's so different and it's so unique. But so yeah, Scream 2. If I can continue my longest tangent, like Scream 2, like Tristan said, like pretty succinctly when he was on the podcast like a few episodes ago, I guess, like a month ago or whatever. I think he said it was like really green, and that's basically how I would summarize Scream 2 visually. Like it's really like green and it feels very collegey, but it's really not as ambitious as Scream 3 and 4. And also it's a bit too similar to Scream 1 tonally for my taste. I like a bit of separation. I feel like it's like Scream 2 is literally like Scream 1 in a different location. Like a continuation, you know. So that's that.
I feel like I've had a light bulb moment with you and Scream 4. And like to think about like sequels as, and not just Scream sequels, but sequels in general, as should they be just one continuous thing with the same tone, the same whatever. I think should they have their own identity that's separate from the movies that came before. And that is the one thing about Scream 4 that you have to give it to. It is the movie that is probably the most unique in terms of the look, the sound, the vibe, the tone, the type of comedy that Scream 4 has, the type of blood that Scream 4 has. It is the most unique movie of the franchise. And
for sure.
I think that that's something very interesting to think about. And like, it reminds me of like the Alien movies, the Forrest Sigourney Weaver movies are all so vastly different, you know? And I think that like, I think it can go both ways. Like, I like the fact that the original trilogy has like a consistent technical team behind it, right? But I also like that 3 is very different. You know, it has its own identity that you described. So I like it a lot. And before we get going any farther,
Mm-hmm.
My guest Ivan, he keeps referring to the forums, and I just want to like really clarify to make people like really understand what it is he and I are talking about here. So before there was Twitter and before there was social media, really, there were these like message boards online. There were, sometimes like franchise specific or genre specific. Like for instance, I used to be on message boards for soap operas back in the day. You want to talk about little gay boys growing up, right? But like there were these message boards, these forums, like kind of like Reddit today, where so like IMDb had them for every movie. There were general message boards. Scream websites had them, and that's kind of what Ivan's talking about when he refers to the forums. It's like just like these big chat rooms and like different threads that people would used to have conversations about and kind of argue their points about like what they thought was better. And it kind of Ivan kind of summed it up really well. Like there was a lot of debate about plot holes and consistency and like who killed who and does this make sense? Is this like narratively consistent? So there was always a lot of debate about everything, and I think that's why I have such an imagination when it comes to Scream, is because I was introduced to Scream in that world where things were debated in a serious artistic way. And he kind of summed up a really good dynamic, because like I also just want to take everybody back into that time for a second, because at that time, so leading up to Scream 4, Scream 3, I would say, was at its lowest point in terms of the fandom right before Scream 4 came to be, because everybody, I think what happens when you have a new movie coming out, everyone looks at the most current movie and its flaws and tries to think about how the next movie can be so much better because the previous movie did this, this, and this. And Scream 3, it was especially harsh, and there were a lot of low blows. Like I don't think that the younger generation, I don't think that Gen Z can fully grasp the amount of hatred that Scream 3 had from so many different perspectives. Like, there was, why I'm so obsessed with screen times is because those fuckers made me so insecure.
Absolutely. Yeah.
About Nev Campbell in Scream 3 saying, like, people were so ugly. They said that she isn't the main character. She's a supporting role. She doesn't have, and I proved them wrong with the literal data and, and like how the narrative is constructed around her, but whatever. So, there were just arguments about like how the movies were made, how they are as movies themselves, like the product themselves, how they compare to each other. So it was a vigorous debate, but I also want to just point out like something he said, like, Scream 1 and 2 were like the two movies, like the twins that could never do anything wrong, and Scream 3 was the movie that could do no right, and I think that like there is something true here about like Scream 2 people. I don't notice it as much today, but every once in a while I do. And like there's one person who used to be on Twitter who he doesn't have Twitter anymore, but he's kind of a well-known person, and he was such a dick about Scream 2. Like Scream 2 is his favorite, and he thinks that he is hoity-toity, better than everybody else, and he can look down on all the peasants who don't rank Scream 2 as their favorite sequel. Yep. I find that attitude to be such a boner killer. Like I find it to be, because I just find it to be such a block and so unfair and so mean. It's not like what I want. But regardless, it's even like when people come on who love Scream 6, I still try to show them grace and let them have a seat at the table.
You're so strong for that, yeah.
And like, I mean, I could easily be just as mean and petty and in that kind of catty gay way, and I'm not,
It wouldn't be hard, yeah.
So that is kind of the context we're talking about, is like the lead up to Scream 4. And like, I also just want to like pinpoint this for everybody. The forums, because like Scream 4 was such a different time. Like we were getting set pictures, every single day. There was a new piece of news every single day that was more specific and alluring and compelling, and something that was newsworthy because they shot on locations everywhere, and it was such a open environment in a lot of ways. But it was different because everybody had these expectations for Scream 4 that it would be like the movie that we deserved to get with Scream 3. That it was like a Scream 3 do-over.
Right. Yeah.
And that it didn't turn out to be that in the slightest bit. So it's just very interesting how the dynamics worked up to that.
Which is actually amazing, and I was so elated when Scream 4 came out, and it wasn't like that at all. Like it wasn't trying to fix Scream 3 like Scream 5 was trying to fix Scream 4 and doing everything it did badly. I feel like Scream 3 and 4 are almost like the second like sister duo of the franchise because they're so specific in terms of vibe and stuff. But you're absolutely right. People were so insanely cruel to anybody. And mind you, back in the day, like people on the internet, they were not fucking nice at all. If you think people are mean now more like in terms of like tribalism and like whatever politics and stuff. People used to like call you fucking names. I hope I can cuss on this podcast.
Of course.
But yeah. They used to like call you names if you liked a movie that they didn't. It was like a war zone, but that's not to say that it was
wasn't
like
all bad.
that. No, not absolutely. It was actually like an overwhelmingly positive experience, especially compared to what we have now. But it was not easy to be a fan back in the day. You had to actually defend what you
Your
loved,
position.
and had to explain why you think the things you claim you do.
And this is why, like, I just want to don't mean to interrupt you, but this is why, like, I find it so hard to talk to people, to talk to Scream 6 fans about why they actually like Scream 6. Like, for instance, like Sam wearing Billy's robe at the end. Like, this is such an indefensible thing in terms of plot, character, morality, any sense of like real world, realism.
But Ghostface had a shotgun in a bodega, so.
But and Sam is cunty. That's what's great about it.
She's a slay queen. Yeah,
and that to me is not like So whenever I come off
so
sounding
shallow, it's so stupid.
But whenever I come off sounding harsh about these things and about the people who say these opinions, and then like I try to like put my point of view out, and they just say, "Oh, well, you're racist," so that's why no, it's not. It's about talking about the movies and like what they're doing and what they're saying and what the writing is trying to tell us, and not.
Sorry to interrupt as well, but like what I want to say on that, like the forum era, people were mean a bit in terms of like opinions and stuff because people were heated, like, and passionate. I can tell you, on the 2 fucking years I was on the USMB, there was not a single like racism scandal where somebody had to be banned because of like saying something racist and stuff. Like, this was not something that was like happening. So even the whole narrative, like in recent years, that a certain actress got hate because of racial stuff, I do not see it from the Scream fandom that I knew. So everything, like so much of the current like stratosphere in terms of like a fandom and stuff and the discourses we're having, it's so like disingenuous and forced. A lot of it feels completely like I don't believe actually that people believe what they're saying most of the time. And if you ask a single one of those like Stan Twitter kids like that has like Sam or Tara as their profile picture, can you tell me what you like about Scream 5 and 6? They'll tell me, oh, when she swiped the knife, it was really cunty, and that's basically where it begins and ends. So, anyways, what I wanted to say about the USMB era as well, like we used to talk like almost like crazy people. Like when I mentioned that Scream 3 feels like plasticky and artificial almost. Like people used to like get what I mean. Like it's almost like these movies, like a lot of movies do, but these movies like pack like really specific, peculiar vibes that are almost like hard to completely voice out loud. But we would make sure that we like completely dug into the core of these movies, and there was literally like nothing left unsaid. So. It was so thorough, so amazing. Yeah, and I wish. So basically, like forums exist now in the form of Reddit. However, the Scream 4 Reddit is not really all that hot either. So
it was just a different time, and like it wasn't just Scream. Like I was on forums for like Buffy and the Oscars, like, so I mean the reason why I have such like the reason why I have this podcast in a way is because of those days being on the message boards, whether it was the Scream Trilogy message boards or the Ultimate Scream message board, the IMDb message boards. Like, they taught me how to look at films from different perspectives and how to get inside a movie, like inside and out, not just looking at the surface of the movie, not just looking at it from a shallow point of view. And I think that is why this podcast feels so unique and fresh compared to the way that other content creators talk about Scream, but also just horror in general. Is like I really try to take it comes naturally to me because this is how I was trained, both in college in a formal setting, but like also just socially in a film setting. And I just want to say about like the types of discussions back then, like it was there are times I because like again I don't want to say I was insecure about Scream 3, but
it was rough.
Again, people who didn't live it have no idea how mean-spirited and nasty
it was. It sounds crazy, but it's absolutely true. It was almost like gaslighting in a way. Like they tried to make you feel crazy for liking Scream 3. Yeah.
But like today, and like even back then, like I felt confident in my opinion because I knew the movie inside and out. I knew every clink and clunk and how it worked mechanically. But the thing about it is like there was like I think that the difference between then and now is back then there was like an intellectual curiosity or an intellectual standard that you had to kind of meet and surpass, and you had to prove yourself that you were kind of thinking smartly about these things. Today, that has been replaced by almost identity politics, for lack of a better phrase. Like
entirely, yeah.
I mean, that is kind of like, in terms of Scream 5 and 6, like, especially Scream 6, like, there has been this awful position, like, where, and no one is allowed to say anything badly about 5 and 6, or else you're a toxic fan that Radio Silence made a movie about. Like, you're Amber and Richie if you didn't like this, or if you have an opinion, or if you tried to say your opinion. Like, we should not be in the business of shutting down people for their opinions about a movie and about characters and about, like, I don't really like Scream 5 that much. That should be an appropriate opinion to have, and it should be an appropriate opinion to say out loud, And then it got even worse when it came to Scream 6, where, if you didn't like Scream 6 or you questioned Scream 6 or either the logic in Scream 6 or you pointed out how the writing doesn't make sense and how the acting is very inconsistent and, you were somehow racist. Like it's crazy to me that like people try to take on this point of view that Scream 6 is the litmus test for racism. I'm like, exactly. It's stupid. And it like, and so then it does the opposite. It chills conversation. And not only does it chill the conversation itself, but it chills the connections you can make from it. All of the connections are superficial. You don't really understand these movies. You don't know these movies because you've chilled the conversation.
And girl, let me tell you something. It's almost as if that's by design. I'm not gonna get into it, but I think this is very calculated on behalf of studios. I think they like having their like little defense that they can always like hearken to. Like I said, I'm kind of a pessimist in terms of the current the current state of things in culture and Hollywood and stuff. But yeah, I'm hoping it's gonna turn for the better. But anyways, let's go back to USMB for a second. Yeah. So basically, when I joined, this was December 2010. I was not privy, obviously, to the actual filming, so I had a lot to catch up on, and I sure did. It was a lot of homework, as you said. Like there were set photos every day. There was a lot. A lot of rumors swirling around. I was quite overwhelmed, but I was like trying my best to like keep up, while also like having to navigate all these new people. And like the forum was kind of like a family almost. These were the people that I was like talking to every single day, like after school. Like this was like almost like my home when I got home, in a very weird way. And basically, just to like go through some usernames, just like do a bunch of shout outs. Truth or Dare, NC-17, The Cheetah Wings, Demo Ghostface, It's a Scream Baby, Omega Beta Zeta, Smashly, Girl. I thought the Ashley was Smashly when I first started listening to this podcast, but no, actually it's a different person, unfortunately. Zaxter, who I'm gonna get into a bit later, Knife of the Hunter, and me, Casey Becker. I was Casey. and of course my friend Billy Doherty and Edwina, aka Sexy Me. So
I can't believe you remember their names. I don't remember.
Wrote them down. Yeah.
Oh
So
my God.
yeah, girl,
Well,
I came prepared. Yeah.
So can we just talk about like the Scream? Like, so again, I want to put people back in that time period. Okay.
Mhm.
Like, so again, Scream. So I have a funny story I wanted to share. And I'm going to keep it quick because this episode's about you. But like there was an element of me manifesting Scream 4, and I've never shared this before on the podcast. So I grew up in a small town and I was raised Catholic, and we were at church one morning, and like the priest was going to he was going to Rome, to the Vatican, and he was going to pray at this certain stone, and that he was going to take like little slips of paper that if you wrote down a wish or something, a prayer, that he would pray for it. Me being the dumbass 8th grader that I was, I really wanted. I was so. This was like my peak, obsession with Scream early on. I wrote down that I wanted Scream 4 to happen, and then a year later, it happened. And I know that sounds
You
dumb,
did it!
but
Oh my God!
I did it.
Thank you
I
so
did it.
much.
Thank you,
Oh my
Catholic.
God, that's so beautiful.
Yes.
Thank you for your service.
Yes,
But,
thank you to the Pope for that one. But, so back then, okay, we were in the remake era, and Nev and Courtney and David, they all really seemed to be wrapped up with Scream. Like, I don't think that there was a longing to return to Scream like there is probably now. It was the opposite, where especially Nev, she really had to be courted to come back. She was really opposed to coming back. I mean, she didn't really want to come back for 3 so much, but eventually they got it worked out. And I think going forward with that, it was just like we were in the remake time, so everybody assumed that the movie we were getting was going to basically be the movie that became Scream 5. Everyone assumed that like Sydney's cousin was going to be the new main star, and that the trio were going to be the people in the background. And that's not so. Scream 4 is just the movie that never stops subverting expectations, because that's not what it was at all. It was a cast ensemble where the trio were the main characters more than they weren't. And the fact that our expectation of Jill as this Requel kind of remake final girl, or the remake main character, that's kind of the brilliance of her being Ghostface, and what it's saying about the culture of remakes. But so again, going into Scream 4 and seeing it be made. In fact, a lot of people I remember on the internet compared, they assumed that it was going to be A Nightmare on Elm Street 3, where you have Kristen played by Patricia Arquette, that would be Jill, and Sydney would be Nancy. So, that's what I was hoping for, and there was also this emphasis on who was going to die, Sydney, Gail, or Dewey, that somebody had to die, that there, and I guess there was a little bit of that too, leading up to Scream 5, but it was different, because by the time that Scream 5 came around, I think the nostalgia about the first 4 movies gelled so much, and the trio and their legacy gelled so much. You know what I mean? I don't know. So Ivan, am I forgetting anything in terms of like the parameters about how we thought about and talked about Scream in the lead up to Scream 4?
So the lead up to Scream 4, there was so much like swirling in the ether. Like there it was like 50 different movies that could have existed before it actually came out. It was so like up in the air. Even when the trailer came out, it was like nobody really knew what we were gonna be getting. But basically, like, I'm just gonna go through like some rumors of the time, and actually not even rumors, actually some stuff that happened. So really quick, this was like talked about, like, if I remember correctly, a lot. Paris Hilton, Lindsay Lohan playing what came to be Rachel and Chloe.
I heard that.
That was something that people were like freaking out about, like both positive and negative, obviously. But obviously it ended up happening. I don't know if that was even true, but anyways, like Hilary Duff, Amanda Bynes, in talks to play Rebecca. That was somebody who was. This was obviously before the actual casting happened. Scout Taylor Compton, Selena Gomez, Lucy Hale. Aubrey Plaza, obviously, Jill, Ali Michalka, Kirby was a strong contender, and also a lot of people actually know Lauren Graham was actually cast as Kate and dropped out because of obviously rewrites. This was like a big red flag, if I remember. Where people were like freaking out, like why are actors dropping out? Like back in the day. people used to like fight to be in Scream movies. Why is this cast member like dropping out? Same with if I remember correctly, Ashley Greene she was basically cast already and also dropped out. So people were kind of like iffy about that. People liked being pessimistic back then, especially. Like it was not the current like everything is great, amazing, gonna be beautiful, and the movie can do no wrong, especially as 5 and 6 were being made. People were like harsh before Scream 4 even came out. So
can I just jump in there for a second? Like, that is something that is a huge difference between then and now. And again, like, I'm still a creature of like the old way, in some respects. So like, people who are just toxically positive about everything, like, I get loving Scream. I love Scream more than anybody on the face of this earth. I get that, but like, people who are positive just to be generically positive, just to be overly sugary and for no good reason, just to spread positivity. Like, I don't like those people. I think those people are just as bad, if not worse, than the extreme, miserable, negative people. Like, I like the realistic people. And I think back then, I think it was maybe slightly a bit more pessimistic than realistic.
Two sides of the same coin, but yeah.
Yeah. And with Lauren Graham, I remember that, and there was also this thing too, again, there was this culture around, Kevin's coming back, as the main writer.
Mm-hmm.
Aaron Kruger, he sucked. He was the reason
Aaron
Scream 3
was like the Antichrist, which is so annoying. I was actually a fan of Aaron Kruger before I even watched Scream 3 for the first time because of The Ring and the Skeleton Key. I thought Aaron Kruger was a genius. I loved his writing, so I loved Scream 3, obviously. Aaron Kruger hate train, especially when it was rumored that he was, not rumored, or basically revealed that he was going to be doing rewrites. It was not a pretty girl.
Well, so, and that's the thing. We didn't have all the information back then. So like in the decade since Scream 4 to now, we learned that Wes Craven, Aaron Kruger, and Kevin Williamson were all writing drafts of Scream 4. And then at one point, Kevin was ushered out, and then Aaron kind of took over. And when but we didn't know that Wes was also writing. We just, what we heard was Kevin wrote the first draft, and then it was rewritten, whatever. And then Aaron came in while they were filming, like within like 2 or 3 weeks. I mean, it was even asked about to Nev and Courtney and David. I remember people asking about this. And like, I remember them having no idea about what to say or why people were being so aggressive about it. But like, people online, I remember that day vividly about when it was announced that Aaron Kruger was doing rewrites on Scream 4. Everybody melted down as though like, and I was just like, come on, guys, like this is not, realistic. And Aaron Kruger, let's just be real, today
he's amazing.
He's an Oscar nominee. So fuck you.
And let me tell you something. The stuff people would say, like got like almost like personal, like vicious insults towards Aaron Kruger, who did nothing wrong, first of all. But to just juxtapose this to what's happening now, it's quite similar, actually, for obviously very different reasons. But this sort of like cultural rot that exists, like, runs so deep, and it's like multi-generational, really. But as much as things change, they also do stay the same in a lot of aspects. So yeah.
Well, and like, isn't it ironic too that like we're talking basically the thesis of our podcast so far is like describing what the culture used to be like and what it's like now, and how Jill, the movie, within the movie, and her theme and her motive and who she is, that kind of came true. And now we're dealing with the Jills of the world, like the very surface level kinds of people who take advantage of, earnest things, to exploit them, to avoid criticism or to avoid this or for notoriety. Yeah. Like, it's just so funny to me that like Jill, within this, the conversation of this movie, Jill is the one thing that lived on, and now we're dealing with the Jills. Like,
no, speaking of Jill, actually, yeah, sorry, but speaking of Jill, so I remember, I also just to, I actually don't remember us knowing that Wes was doing rewrites at all for like a really long time. But anyways, about Jill. So obviously, when people thought Jill was actually gonna be like the replacement of Sydney, I actually recall the sides of Scream 4 that people would audition with. They had leaked online like super early, like early-ish. I remember like people just having the link to the sides like on a PDF, and in this on these sides, Jill had a dead boyfriend named Jared. Actually, Jared is the name of my very best friend. Shout out. But she had a boyfriend named Jared who died mysteriously a year prior, before the events of 4. And it was like obviously going to be revealed in the finale that she set this up. And I don't think we connected at the time that this was supposed to have like tied into the remake theme. Like obviously this Jared person was supposed to be Maureen. Jill was supposed to be Sydney. I don't think like we really got it. I don't remember like people knowing exactly that the remake thing was going to be such a major factor until like super late. Like practically like maybe a month or 2 before release, people were like, unless I'm misremembering. So yeah. So when Scream 4 actually came out, I was gagged. I was so blown away. It was an amazing opening weekend. I watched it actually on my birthday, April 13th, and a funny thing is it didn't actually open here until quite a bit later, which I want to touch upon now. The whole Scream 4 is a miserable flop of a movie that flopped because it was bad and Neve Campbell was old or whatever. So I'm not saying that this is the reason why Scream 4 flopped. This is just maybe a symptom of a more underlying problem. But do you want to guess maybe the date where when Scream 4 actually opened in my country, which is Croatia? It was August 18th, bitch.
Oh my God. That's my birthday, by the way. But
oh, well, how convenient. But this is not normal. So this was abnormal even for, but like movies would open like a week later at most. So not only that, in Austria, May 5th in Germany as well. South Korea, June 9th. In Japan, October 29th. This is not normal, by the way. I don't know what was going on with the distribution and dimension. I'm not saying that, like, obviously the domestic box office was underwhelming, but also like the international one wasn't great either for obvious reasons. But if the international release was so botched, just like imagine what went on behind the scenes in general. It was just not a very well orchestrated release. In terms of promo, in terms of everything, like Scream 4 was really not promoting Neve Campbell and Courtney and David that much. The main poster was The Knife. The magazine, I think it was Entertainment Weekly. Yeah, I think so. It was just Ghostface. The second main poster was just Ghostface. There was not a lot of emphasis on Neve Campbell and Courtney and David. So I just want to rebuke the claims that people didn't want to go watch a Neve Campbell movie because she was washed up or whatever. So yeah, anyways, carry on.
Yeah, that we have to talk about because that is like, again, I don't think people understand what it was like back then. In terms of Scream 4, like the rollout of reawakening this franchise after 10 years, Scream 4 doing it versus Scream 5, completely different. Like the marketing intensity of Scream 5, night and day. Like Ivan just said, like they did not take advantage of the trio as much as they could have. People didn't know about this movie. The people who went to see Scream 1, 2, and 3 back in the 90s did not even know that Scream 4 was
exactly. Yeah,
and that was a key part of the marketing campaign. Like not only was it just like even like the knife poster, right? Like and the fact that there was never even like a formal cast photo shoot for a poster. Like every other movie has one except for Scream 4.
There was that really terribly photoshopped cast poster that was actually the cast poster I got during my official theatrical release in my country. I did not obviously wait until August. I think we can all figure out what I did. Not to support piracy, I say we buy the movies we love, and I bought like Scream 4 since then like 20 million times basically. Like I have 20 different versions of it. So but yeah,
but like can we just I really think that it's like worth underlining here is like how Ivan described like the international rollout, how we described like the chaos behind the scenes with like the script being so up in the air and constantly being rewritten, the actors not really being as like in the groove, you know what I mean? Like there wasn't a lot of like urgency to Scream 4 in terms of like, or organization behind it.
Yeah,
And it
at
turned
all.
out to be an amazing movie, but I think all of that, it explains the box office in some respects, and in a way that, again, I don't think people understand, because in today's world, you have Cynthia Erivo and Ariana Grande literally taking over the culture for 3 months to promote Wicked. That type of stuff did not happen back then, and it's especially didn't happen with Scream 4. It just felt like Scream 4 was expected to just do good on its own without any help, without any reminder, without, you know, inviting anybody to come see it, and that's part of why it flopped. And like, to Ivan's point, he, you know, we hear this like line from like the I hate to say it, but like the toxic Melissa Barrera people, you know, they say that Scream 7 is going to be a flop and a disaster, and that the only reason Scream came back and it was good and made money was because of Jenna Ortega and Melissa Barrera. I'm sorry, but that's a fucking joke. No, Jenna Ortega was still small potatoes when Scream 5 came out, and most people in America don't even know who Melissa Barrera is now, even after
or
she
anywhere
was
else for that matter. Yeah.
But like, you know, so it's crazy to me that like, to say, oh well, because Scream 4 was led by Nev and she was older, that's the reason that it failed. No, it is not, and it's not because of Sydney, you know, being the main focus of Scream 4. That's not
at
the
all.
reason.
And listen to me, honey. Look, people thought, and this is a completely true story, 100%. People thought that Scream 4 was a scary movie for when it was coming out. I am not making this up. People on USMB used to say like, oh, the Scream 4 trailer played before some movie, and somebody in the audience said, wait, didn't 4 come out already? And it did. Like, it came out in 2006. The culture around the Ghostface image was so tarnished because of Scary Movie. People would, like, when they saw Ghostface, they would say like, what's up? Like, people like at school, like kids at school, when I like would show something up, like I love to play Scream 4 at birthday parties and stuff, or like clips from movies. I was just so obsessed. It was my whole personality. And people would go like, oh, what's up? Like, even like kids, adults all over the world, like the image of Ghostface was kind of skewed. It wasn't what it was in the 90s. And I think the marketing decision to make the entire promo campaign, the entire rollout, Ghostface centric, kind of a mistake. So actually, no, it did not flop because of Ned Campbell. Most people didn't even know she was in it. So,
well, and again, horror was just at a different place as well.
And
today,
that as well, yeah.
Horror is so hot right now. It's so easy to market a horror movie. Even like the average horror movie can make a good, you know, $20 million at the box office without even trying that hard. And you know, let alone something with the IP of Scream.
Especially slashers, slashers were not popping in 2011. The torture porn genre had basically been executed in 2010, like kind of unceremoniously with Saw 3D. People were kind of over, like, it seemed real world violence. I don't know what was happening. People wanted to go watch Paranormal Activity and the Grave Encounters and stuff. It was obviously, people know this. We don't need to like harp on this. It was just a bad time.
So, but like, you know, going back just one quick second before we go and talk about like the legacy of Scream 4 and like the culture after it was released, you know, I have to, you know, I feel so lucky to have lived the Scream 4 experience, because I don't think, even if like you would have, you know, lived the 90s experience with the original trilogy, Scream 4 was a unique thing because it was unlike today where everything is so locked down. I mean, like realistically, we got no pictures on set. Maybe like 1 or 2 leaks of things for Scream 7 right now. But like in terms of Scream 4, I mean, like I can tell you 10 scenes off the top of my head that we saw being filmed, you know, pictures of them, like, and that was kind of the fun thing about Scream 4 is like I remember waking up every day that summer in the summer of 2010, going to my computer, and the first thing I would go to is screamtrilogy.net or whatever it was, and just seeing what new photos were there. You know, I vividly remember, of course, the first thing that they filmed was the books, is Sydney's bookstore. I remember
legendary,
the most legendary thing, in my opinion, were the set photos for Olivia's death, and like Sydney walking out, Emma and Mary McDonald and Nev all holding hands, like, you know, Courtney talking to the cops. I remember that.
The drama, the glamour. Oh my God. Like, it was so, like, the set photos themselves were like more beautiful and more meaningful than I'm sorry, most of Scream 5 and 6. But yeah, the set photos. Also, like, I'm quite surprised. I thought that Scream 7 was going to be basically Scream 4 Part 2 in a lot of aspects. Like chaotic production, obviously, like sort of things are a bit tense and stuff. However, not really at all. It's kind of the opposite. It seems kind of really calm, sort of kumbaya, like zero stuff from set. Like I haven't even seen an actual leak yet. And trust, I'm a person who's been hunting for leaks for all of the installments. Like something, it's not that there's no interest, it's quite opposite. Like, I don't know, something's like changing in the air, I guess.
And also, the thing about Scream 4, like so because it felt like it was a majestic thing, like something, it felt like something to be marveled at, like to see these set photos versus, I'm sorry, but like the selfies of, Jack Quaid making funny faces,
Oh my God. The first thing I saw from Scream 5, not to jump ahead, but basically were the selfies with the cast. I remember the first thing I saw was the stuff at the beach. I was so not living. I was like, what?
Well,
it's not the vibes just weren't there. Sorry.
And like the thing about it was like, it was like almost like spotting like the royals like out, like, and that's what it felt like back then. And like, even so, I remember even after they were done filming, when the Entertainment Tonight footage finally dropped and we got to see like inside Kirby's house, and like, like the first thing that they showed on Entertainment Tonight was Sydney and Jill being chased up the steps to, in that set piece in Act 3, and they showed Nev on the roof, and it was just so cool. It was just, it felt like it built up to a big moment after we had kind of lived the experience. But regardless, I don't think there were leaks per se in the summer, but over the year it did definitely leak. Like I knew going in every single plot point going into that movie, so beat by beat I knew everything that was going to happen in every scene, and I'm fine with that. I'm good with knowing spoilers. It wasn't anything I'm complaining about.
More or less this same. However, people were so courteous back then to like spoiler tag stuff, so you had to open the spoilers yourself. I was not doing all of that. I was like kind of trying to keep things fresh for me. So actually, I was really blown away when I saw Scream 4. Like it was like Scream 4 has such a peculiar sort of particular vibe. It's almost impossible to predict ahead of time. Like it's not something you would guess. Like Scream 2. Like I'm sorry. Like I love Scream 2 actually, but Scream 2 kind of guessable. Like after watching Scream 1, yeah, I can imagine a sequel, and it's Scream 2. Scream 4 was not that. It was not a continuation of Scream 3. It was such a like a new vibration almost. Like it opened something new, which is exactly what it was supposed to be. And I just loved it.
And one thing else the one last thing I want to say is like about Kirby. Okay. I don't know if you experienced this, but I remember like Kirby was almost preordained as like
annoying fans. Yeah, absolutely. I was going to get into that. Yeah.
But like she, like back then, like even like when they were filming, Kirby was already picked out as the fan favorite. And for me, so like, it took me a little bit of time to warm up to her because I knew like, because everybody had acted like, ooh, she is the one, and so, whereas Jennifer Jolie, her fandom came organically.
She had no fans back then, Jennifer Jolie. I and like 3 other people were Jennifer Jolie stans, and it's almost like a cliche now to be a Jennifer Jolie fan. But back then it was like really not. And also a lot of people like found her annoying, completely different from now, and that has changed entirely. But yeah. Anyways, to go back to Scream 4, when Scream 4 came out. Not just the themes. First of all, I love everything about Scream 4. I love the filter. I love the outfits. I love like every single shot of it. I think it's so gorgeous. I think it looks like a Caravaggio painting as a movie. Like I love it. And to me, it feels intentional. Of course, I will never know what Scream was thinking with the filter, whose decision that was. And also I want to get into this. The filter is so meaningful to the movie. This talk, like recent talk that it should be removed for the 4K release. Girl, I rebuke it. I do not know. Absolutely not. I feel like this is something that people used to complain about as well. But now it's almost like like a really forced cliche almost. Like people, this is something you say when you talk about Scream 4. Oh, that ugly filter that looks like RuPaul's Drag Race season 1 or whatever. It's just like mimetic almost, like to hate on the filter. I really wonder how many people actually like minded that much, and how many people actually were led to believe that that's something that they need to say. But yeah,
Well,
I feel like I feel like it like literally it ties into like the theme, like the movie, not just like the remake. Some people say like, well, it kind of looked like the remakes of the time. Sort of, kind of, not really. When you look at the remakes, Friday the 13th, 2009, it was stylized. It did not have that filter. It was kind of like high contrast. It was really dark. TCM 2003, it was like a music video, kind of gritty, grainy, like flashy cuts and stuff. Nightmare on Elm Street, quite like sort of surgical, clean looking, very polished. So that was what Scream 4 was going for with the aesthetic choice. However, I feel like the filter almost goes beyond like the remake theme, because I don't feel like Scream 4 is really just about like remakes and just about like social media influencers. I feel like it's also about the abrupt sudden change in culture from the 90s, like going to the 2000s, the late 2000s, early 2010s. It was such a vastly different vibe. And when you watch Scream 4 after like the first 3 movies, it almost like smacks you in the face. And that's exactly how the jump from the one era to another was. And I feel like this is such an important like core part of the movie. Like kind of looks more like reality shows more than any movie that existed at the time. It kind of did look like Real Housewives of Beverly Hills, like 2010 filter. You could really, if you go look back, that's what it looked like. So this obviously ties into like the reality. Everything has to be realer than before. But at the same time, it's a lot more fake. It's a lot more artificial. With the live streaming stuff, people aren't going to read about it. People are going to see it like it's like reality TV, true crime before it was true crime. But it was more about like the type of entertainment and the style of entertainment in the late 2000s, which was direct commentary of the filter. Yeah.
I have never thought about it that way. Not just about the remake time, but just like describing the shift and the drastic shift of culture between, the 90s and, post 2000s. That's really amazing. I love that. And I like that you described it like talking about reality TV show music videos, blah, blah, blah. That's really apt and very smart. And it makes me appreciate the filter even more than I do on the surface level. And
also like even in universe, like it feels like the events of Scream 4, like back then, like every single movie like was a major thing, like a major event, but both like in universe and outside. Like Scream 4 happening, Jill doing that was like a major fucking thing in Sydney's life. It feels almost like surreal or dreamlike because she was out of darkness. She wrote a book. She turned a new chapter. Sometimes things get better when you think they won't, only for that to completely be thwarted with this almost like a nightmare like scenario, worst possible scenario of her going back to Woodsboro. Like it also feels like a dream. It feels so multi-layered, and some people may say, "Oh, this is obviously like you're making stuff up." Nobody's ever confirmed this, but actually, Wes Craven was never a person who like sat down and said, "Oh, when I did that, this meant this, and also this. When this person said that, this meant that." He was like a person who wanted you to figure it out. So I'm not surprised that he never commented on the filter, because that was not something that he usually does or did. And also, last thing about the filter, when you look at movies of that time, didn't quite look like that. When you look at other Weinstein movies, they really all quite look like that. You want to know what looked like that? My Soul to Take looked like that. So this was obviously a conscious decision from Wes Craven, who clearly gravitated to this sort of aesthetic in the last part of his career. From Cursed, My Soul to Take, it was like this very sort of like glam filter. Like My Soul to Take was not a pretty movie. It was kind of like more like washed out, similar sort of gloss, but in a sort of a different way. But what I mean to say is he was clearly into stylizing his movies heavily, and this feels very conscious. Obviously, he did it for a reason. So the people who are demanding for the filter to be released, I'm so sorry to say that you have no clue what you're talking about, and you should maybe this should be some type of fan edit or whatever. But this should not be an official release. Sorry, that's just like painting over the Mona Lisa with some colors you think are more pleasant.
No, I appreciate your perspective here, and I probably agree with you. Like I don't think that the filter should be removed. I mean, it's part of the movie, and that's how Wes Craven imagined it. So I agree. Okay, Ivan, this has all been well and good. Before earlier, you mentioned this idea that Scream 4, like comparing Scream 4 to Scream 5, and the way that you interpret Scream 5 in a way to almost having like a redo on Scream 4 in terms of the way that it approaches the requel or the remake or launching into a new generation. So I'm just curious, like, for you to follow up on that now that we've kind of discussed where we all stand on all these issues and kind of the history here. So Ivan, how does Scream 5 compare to Scream 4 in your opinion?
Well, the reason I was even bringing up Scream 5 in a Scream 4 episode and the way I feel about Scream 5 is because I feel like Scream 5 is almost disrespectful towards 4, if that makes sense, and bear with me. Like, I feel like it's almost like hostile towards 4, and I'm shocked that more fans haven't like pointed this out over the years. I know some people have, but I feel like this is so like almost like scandalous, in my opinion, for Scream 5 to be directly disrespectful towards Wes Craven's final movie, especially coming from supposed huge fans of Wes Craven. I did not like that, and I do not like that still. I feel like.
Well, can I ask what is disrespectful about 5 in your opinion?
Well,
as it
I
relates
feel
to
like
4?
so. I feel like it's it's like coded in the text, but it's also kind of overt if you like pay attention. I feel like it portrays Scream 4 as insignificant, like quite directly. Even like the line about, oh, this is something that happens every 10 years in regards to 4. Like this is just something that happens every now and then. It's like, no, this was like a major thing, and it's so flippant about 4. Even the line, like it utilizes so much of the stuff Scream 4 set up in terms of the lore in the canon, especially the Stab stuff, because we learn about the Stab franchise in 4 basically more than any other Scream movie before, and it's kind of like Sidney was in every Stab movie except the last one. Like, what? This is so sloppy. This is so like blatantly disrespectful to the established canon, and it makes zero sense. And especially because it sort of alludes to the fact that apparently nobody wrote a book about Scream 4. Nobody shot a Stab movie about Scream 4. This makes no sense, especially because apparently for years Hollywood was making Stab movies based on Sidney Prescott. Not her life, because she threatened to sue, but like making stuff up and having her likeness and her name like that. This makes no sense. Because of that, she would be able to sue because they are lying. You cannot, I don't think you can actually sue somebody if they like retell a true life story in a movie, especially if it's like based on a book of somebody who was there. But if you like start making stuff up, this is like what people get sued over. So this makes no sense, and this is huge. Like, in my opinion, this is like an unforgivable mistake. And if you're like unsure about what Scream 4 was trying to say in the opening scene with Jenny and Marnie, there's a deleted scene that specifically says that Sydney was not in any stab movie after 3. So stuff like that. Even like, I mean, basically the entirety of Scream 5 was like surface level, trying to fix Scream 4's mistakes, like trying to fix the filter by having the cinematography be really like boring, bland, inoffensive, so that nobody would possibly have anything to like say about it looking weird in any way, because it doesn't look weird. It looks kind of like nothing, apart from the super like weird close-ups and the bad sets and stuff like that. Like there's actually nothing to say about Scream 5 visually. And also like killing off one of the trio. This was something that people were complaining about in the past. So now they fixed it. Like even the Tatum reference, people were complaining about that before. Like, how come Dewey never mentions Tatum? Nobody ever like shows anything Tatum related. Like this, apart from like the one line in Scream 3, like people were pointing that out. And now Scream 5 fixed it. Thank you so much, Radio Silence, for your service. Red Right Hand inclusion. That's something. This is something that people were so annoying about. Like at that point, especially like people just missed what Scream 4 was supposed to be. Obviously, like Scream 4, like you look at the soundtrack, like electro pop, sort of like more electronic stuff versus the rock vibe of the trilogy. This is clearly intentional. So Red Right Hand, I actually on USMB I got into an argument with a user called Red Right Hand, who was coincidentally talking about this every single day almost. It felt like basically like Scream 5 was just going down and Kirby being alive. It's like these like super like brain dead sort of surface level complaints that people have just being fixed. But it only goes to show like Scream is so beyond the surface level ticking of boxes. Like people were even like when the stills of Jenna playing with the knife in the opening were released, people were going, "Oh my god, this is so meta. This is just like Casey Becker." It's like, this is Scream 4. This is Lucy Hale. This happened already. Like I feel like I'm living in the Twilight Zone.
Can I just jump in here? Because like I agree with you 100% about the Jenna picture. Like I found that to be annoying. Because I mean, like I like it in the movie. It's fine, but like to give so much weight to Scream 5 in terms of homaging the original, when Scream 4 did it with purpose. It's reductive and repetitive, and like just to your points, like overall, I agree with you actually about like the stab of it all. Like Scream 5 butchers the timeline for no reason, and like I think like the biggest difference is I think Scream 4 made such a statement about the original characters and the original legacy, and then Scream 5 does the commercial thing that everybody all the other franchises do, which is to devalue their original characters, put them in the back seat, and force new ones on us. And I think that is a big factor here in the equation. And I'm not saying that Scream can never move on. I'm just saying the way it moved on, some people in retrospect feel a little burned by it, and rightfully so.
In that regard, like 5 is everything 4 was against. I do not understand how you can watch Scream 4 even once. Like even if you sort of like skim through it, watch it on like double speed or something. Scream 4 was against requels. It was a very cynical, almost like mean-spirited movie. Like very much so in a way that I like old man yelling at clouds. That's cool to me. This is like rare. It doesn't pander to teenagers and like teenage sensibilities and what's popular in the moment. It's like trying to transcend that. And I feel like the entire, even more so than like the social media influencer theme, I feel like the core, obviously, of Scream 4 is like generations. I think that even if it's unintentional, because Judy's fate was sort of up in the air until the very end, the only people that survive in Scream 4, and Kirby was supposed to die, mind you, the only people who survive Scream 4 are of an older generation. Judy is Sydney's generation, so to speak, like more or less, basically, yeah. And the entire new cast was killed off this was the opposite of what was expected and what people thought was going to happen. People expected a Scream 5, but it was something completely different. And for Scream 5 to sort of position itself as some sort of like almost like a knight in shining armor, like we're gonna save the Scream franchise from the bad last 2 or even 3 movies, because actually I don't even understand what Scream 5 is saying. So it's using this. First of all, I don't even know what Scream 5 is about. I don't even know understand the theme, the message, the toxic fan stuff is just like completely like very tacky. Those characters do not exist in real life. They're so neither here nor there. Like they exist in real life, sorta, but not in a way that the movie was. Like what the movie was saying. Maybe the fans of and the staunch defenders of radio silence. Maybe those are those people, but that's not what the movie was actually trying to say, obviously. And also the positioning of. Like I feel like Scream 5 just sort of fundamentally misunderstands the franchise. And it's Stab as well, so this is like a double meta misunderstanding. Like Stab 1 in universe was never supposed to be some type of like masterpiece of a movie. It's something that characters make fun of. This is not like Stab 1 is not like Scream 1, and even if it was, Scream is the one franchise, the one horror franchise where fans like more than one movie. There's like, I don't think there are very many people, if at all, who say like Scream 1 is the only good one and all of the sequels suck. This is something that doesn't happen with Scream at all. I do not understand this commentary, where they got that from. It's such an like it makes no sense no matter how you twist it. I don't really understand it.
Can I just jump in here? Because I actually love this point. Like, and we're getting there should probably be a Stab episode of Scream with Ryan C. Showers where we talk about what Stab means to the franchise, because I do think that you're right. There was something that Stab meant to, in like a continuous, consistent line between Scream 2 to 4, those 3 movies versus what Stab means in 5 and 6, because like you made a really good point too in terms of like the way that they kind of butcher. Like I still want to know, why the fuck was there not a Stab movie made about the events of Jill?
Yeah, this makes no sense. This makes no sense.
And I can see like, and Jill's arguably the most popular killer in the franchise. So to do that, I think was weird. The fact that it was so clunky, I just don't understand how you mess something so simple up.
And it's so like in universe, like come on. I know like Scream 4 flopped in real life, but in universe, in the Scream universe, like Scream 4 was a major event. Obviously, like this was something that should have been built upon, especially if you're gonna have Scream 4 characters in your movie, Judy, Kirby. Like, if you're gonna do that, then don't, like, you cannot, like, steal Scream 4's nachos and then, like, disrespect Scream 4. It doesn't work that way. So I'm just really, I cannot believe that this is something that fans aren't, like, pointing out more. But whatever, it is what it is, I guess.
And I just want to, like, put a fine point on, like, what you were kind of alluding to about Scream 4 versus Scream 5. And like I get the more time goes on, the more I see your position, and the more I take your position here about like 4 versus 5. Like 4, for whatever flaws people personally have with it, it is undeniable that Scream 4 has a deep perspective and something groundbreaking to say in its messaging, and it's very clear. It is so deep, versus Scream 5, which Scream 5 has like the surface level of an idea, which is the toxic fandom. But the problem is they don't go deeper with it. They don't.
They don't even go deep like with being mean to elevator horror and A24 and stuff. They're not even like bold enough to do that. But guess what? They're bold enough to do. They're bold enough to shit on Scream 4. But you can't even like commit to like shading the Babadook or something, like where you have to like have a line at the end. Oh, I still prefer the Babadook, so you don't offend like letterboxed Zoomers.
Oh, you're right.
Yeah, I mean, but you're so confident to like disrespect Scream 4. I I cannot believe it.
But and see, like that's the thing, like, you know, too, like even just comparing like the messages and like the killer's motive and the killers themselves as characters within the story, and on their own, because like, you know, the killers are like they operate in the setting, right? But they have a backstory that goes deep and like that explains how they got there. And I just don't think that Scream 5 defined Amber or Richie well enough to really warrant it all to make sense. And I think that they could have shaded in a lot of details to make them really compelling characters that weren't just kind of like there. You know what I mean? I feel like, you know, they're fine. Like I don't think Amber and Richie are offensive as killers, like the killers in Scream 6, who are, you know, they're plagued by bad acting, but the killers in Scream 5 are just very generic, surface level.
Wasted opportunity. Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah. And also, if I may, I just wanted to read out a quick thing that my friend Jared, who I mentioned for a bit before, was also with me on USMB. He wrote this about Scream 5 and he really wants to get this out. So I'm just going to read this really quick.
Sure.
So he says, it makes no goddamn sense why there was a basement out of fucking nowhere in a house in California, a state prone to earthquakes. Like we know that the executives wanted to lazily evoke the sensibility of the garage with the creation of the basement, with Amber looking for beer, but in order to have a garage you need to have the outside of the dumbass house. And what they what did they either flat out not have at all, or had in the fakest fucking capacity anytime somebody stepped foot out of the AstroTurf studio? The exteriors. And you know, we've seen plenty of sets used for movies, and convincingly so, but it's the utter disregard for that among several others, like how Chad doesn't even bother trying to run back to the back door, which is literally adjacent to the living room, and how Amber's bedroom seems to be on the first floor, which is impossible, illogical, and we've seen the house in the 1996. We know it doesn't look like that. The closet Amber jumps out of upstairs did not exist in 1996 because there's a curtain there. Logically, the Scream 5 set is an impossibility.
I think saying that's an impossibility is very generous.
I mean, it's just kind of ridiculous. I completely agree with him. And according to him, and I completely agree, and you also need to have him on an episode. He's really great. Which he says it completely ruins any semblance of immersion in the 5's finale. Beyond the chaotic, try-hard edit, trying to desperately fool everybody into thinking it's the same house. So he really hates the sets from Scream 5. So I just wanted to add that in there for a minute.
And I appreciate the perspective here, because the house does suck. And I think that's one thing that people have acknowledged. But
and another thing in regards to that, Scream 4, as a lot of people know, was actually supposed to end at the Stu house, which is actually tying into the sort of obnoxious reductive remake commentary. And guess what? Scream 5 actually does. And the only reason why they didn't do that in 4 was because of like location issues. It wasn't like happening, it wasn't possible, but this is something that 4 was like making fun of, the idea of like ending the reboot at the actual literal same location, but like doing that only to embarrass yourself and only to do it so badly is just so bad. But anyways, yeah.
So this was a really fun episode. I really appreciate you coming. And it just, as we close out, I just want to say, like, you know, one last thing, like to kind of put the point on it, like, and not to end on a somber note here, but it's, you know, whenever Scream 4 came and went, you know, I think everybody expected it to just do well, because the first 3 did well, and there wasn't a lot of there wasn't a lot of weighing the odds, like, oh, it could actually do really badly. Everyone just assumed that it would do well. So when it didn't do well, it was a huge shock, and it didn't really it flamed out pretty fast after that. Like it didn't last very long in US theaters, and I mean, obviously, because look at the box office, right? The evidence is there. But you know, there was such a weird mood after that in the air. Like, I think that everybody kind of knew that this was the last movie we were going to get, and it was it was sad, you know, and I think like, you know, the reason why I think Scream 5, everyone was so generous to Scream 5, in addition to the toxic positivity, which we talked about earlier, but like, it was because we were so sad about Scream 4 kind of coming and going, and then that being it, and it not spawning another sequel and kind of closing up the franchise when it was supposed to be relaunching it. So, you know, that's just kind of like the epilogue here of this discussion.
Yeah, and also like the summer following Scream 4, people were still kind of hopeful, but you could tell like people were giving up, especially like the Kirby's Alive people. It really didn't seem like 5 was happening anytime soon. Like people were just dipping out. And then in 2012, the MTV show was announced. A lot of people were not happy. I actually thought at the time, for a minute, it was going to be a TV show with Nev and David and Courtney and Ghostface, except it's not Scream 5, it's a TV show, but obviously this didn't end up happening. And the fandom just sort of like, there was an exodus basically, like over the decade, and people were like really hopeless. And even the idea of a Scream 5 happening was something that we couldn't have foreseen. So I think because of that, people were really eager to be positive, overly so, I think. However, it looks like what was supposed to happen with Scream 5 is going to be happening now.
Yeah.
So everything maybe happens for a reason. Who knows? Maybe this is the only way we could have even conceivably had a follow-up to Scream 4, not in like a plot way, but in like a spiritual way. So who knows?
And I love that because like, and I think it, like everything that's happened over the past couple of years with Scream is cool because like it's the, you know, there is an old saying like that if there's a right and the left and you pick right, you know, don't regret not picking left because you'll always end up in the place where you're supposed to be. So even though I think, you know, possibly with Scream 5, whenever they were making the choice, do we go with Nev and Courtney and David or do we go with young, cheap, new talent? They went with young, cheap, new talent. Yeah. We're still ending up in the same place that we should be, which is, you know, with Sydney, which is very cool. Ivan, this has been such a wonderful episode. Thank you so much. And honestly, you made me think about Scream 4 in ways that I have not thought about. And I've done over 200 episodes of this podcast. And like, I love that. So thank you so much for reshaping Scream 4 for me in a way.
Of course. And thank you so much for everything you do. I think you're amazing and this podcast is amazing. And this community you've built is something like similar to what we had before. But might I say even better? Like it's really, really cool what you do and all the hard work you put in to this podcast. Yeah, and it looks like brighter horizons. It feels like we're moving on up, and we'll see if that pans out.
Thank you so much. That made my day. And to your point earlier, you said like you described how there was a mass exodus after Scream 4, and there was. So even and like just, you know, to put a fine tooth comb on it, people who say that there was an exodus of fans after the events of Melissa Barrera, I say LOL. You know, people come and people go, and you know that's just the way it is. So if we can come back from Scream 4, you know, and how mishandled that was in the rollout by the studio, in my opinion, in the marketing and like
and Scream MTVS,
and in the lowest of the low, the MTV world. Yep. No offense to my fans who like that show, but anyways, all right, Ivan, thank you so much. This was a wonderful topic, everybody. We will see you next time.
Scream with Ryan C. Showers is made possible by supporters like you. All copyrighted material used or referenced in this show belong to their rightful owners and made possible by the Fair Use Act.
And number 3, never, ever, ever, under any circumstances say, I'll be right back. Because you won't be back.
Get another beer, you want one?
Yeah, sure.
I'll be right back!